interesting. Now, reporter Mr. Lehana Tsotetsi joins us live in studio for an update on that interview. Lehana, a very good afternoon to you. I mean, you once spent time in the Gambia and interacted with President Jammeh. Can you take us through that moment? He's blaming journalists. He's saying that they're being used, particularly South African journalists.
Yeah, it's quite surprising that now he's even mentioning my name, that I did an interview with him. Yes, I did an interview with him. I was going to ask you which interview this was. But the fact of the matter is, he failed to understand that doing an interview doesn't mean the interview has to run for the whole week because he's the head of state. The interview was done and we played the inserts, but according to him, he wanted that interview replayed because he says he never saw it even in Western media and I'm not working for BBC or Sky. So we were doing that thing for SABC and we played it out for SABC, but the president wanted to see. Yeah, the president wanted to see. But at the time, I found him a very interesting guy because he just says some weird things from nowhere, you know. There was one time when I was asking him about the presence of Muammar Gaddafi, who visited Gambia in Banjul in 2011. And then he was saying no. And in actual fact, he was one of the first presidents to say Muammar Gaddafi must vacate the seat and leave because people don't want him anymore. And yet today, he's the one who doesn't want to vacate the office, which is very interesting. But he's a very odd guy. The type of things that he says sometimes would really surprise me. I remember at one stage, I was with my colleague Mpumi. Mpumi was doing the camera work. And then he wanted to take us to his farm. Yeah. And then to show us the kind of plants that he has there, which he says he's growing and he can cure HIV/AIDS. And I said, Mr. President, are you really serious? And then he said to me, this is what I can do, Lehana. But I didn't even want to entertain that. So I didn't even cover that angle of the story. That's Yahya Jammeh for you.
Very interesting indeed. Now, we are aware that he's asked for an extension on that initial deadline, which was 12 o'clock this afternoon to now 4 p.m. If I'm looking at the time, we're well after 4 p.m. What is the current situation like now in the Gambia?
I guess what we're getting now is unconfirmed reports that he has asked the mediation group he's asking for an extension of until 4 p.m., which would be 6 p.m. South African time. But I wonder what difference will the 2 hours make to move out of office after having been in office for so long. But those are unconfirmed reports, and until such time that they are verified, we can say, yes, he has asked for that time. Yeah. But for now, we're still holding and trying to find out as to what the latest is, and we keep in tabs.
All right. And Lehana, I mean, at the core of his reasons for not wanting to vacate power, maybe take us through that, because we do understand he is contesting the election that was actually approved by international observers.
Look, this is a leader who took power through a coup when he was very young. He was still a soldier, you know, and he actually made sure that Jawara, the then president, was out of office and then took office. And he promised that he will run the office in a proper way, and he made sure that the people of Gambia will benefit from taking over. He's the guy who used to say, if you vote for me, you're voting for development. But if you vote for an opposition, then you should know that you're voting for your children to be refugees. What he meant by then, it's still surprising even today. But being that he's Jammeh and he's a soldier, I guess he will leave office, because I want to believe one of the analysts that you talked to the other day mentioned quite a very important point, that the reason why Jammeh is doing this, I think it's also because of, you know, what you could call careless pronouncement by the opposition, because they should have waited until the inauguration of Adam Barrow, then they could say what they are going to do, not to pronounce while Jammeh is in office that they are going to send him to the ICC and all that. That could have been the cause of him wanting to stay over.
Lehana, thank you so much for that. That is Lehana Tsotetsi, our very own reporter, and he was giving us an update on the Yahya Jammeh situation taking place in the Gambia. He's asked for an extension until 6 p.m. South African time, so we will be also watching the developments around that if he will indeed vacate office.